welcome to Nerd Social. I am Nathan.
And I'm Colin.
Hello, everyone. So this evening we're going to talk about What If episode 7. I think we are on now, right? Which
Yep,
is
7.
entitled "What If Killmonger Saved Tony Stark" or something to that effect,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we are going to talk about Titans episode 9, entitled "Home."
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Home. Yep.
yeah. So as always, we will talk about our spoiler-free thoughts about the episodes, then jump into spoiler talk. So, Colin, what do you think of What If episode 7? 7 now.
Yeah, it's definitely moving along. I think that this episode dragged a little bit for me.
Mm-hmm.
I because I we saw the preview at the beginning of Tony Stark being saved, and by Killmonger, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was very interesting to kind of figure out whether or not Killmonger in this universe is going to be a hero or is a redeemed hero from what you saw in Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
And so, without spoiling anything, I think that they did do a very good job of again weaving in a story of the story of Black Panther with the story of Iron Man along with it. And there's some elements of Iron Man 2 as well, which was very interesting. So overall, I found it pretty solid. But for me, I think it wasn't as strong as last week's zombie episode, and also with Doctor Strange. I think that this one was pretty good. It's not bad or anything like that. It's just that for me, it wasn't quite as strong as the previous two episodes, and there's not. But again, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just my personal thought that it was a little bit more effective here. I think some of the choices that they made probably I didn't really like about the characters. But other than that, it's still a solid one. You should still go see it. And, again, they're just kind of very consistent throughout in terms of their storytelling.
Yeah, it was a good episode for me as well. I don't know. I think my ranking right now is Doctor Strange, then the zombie episode, and then we need to then I would need to kind of think about the other ones, but this might be the third, so I actually liked it a fair amount.
Hmm.
I also appreciated that a lot of the voice cast came back for this. We have Michael B. Jordan, of course, coming back
Hmm.
is to play Killmonger, but also even smaller parts like John Favreau came back to play Happy Hogan and Chadwick Boseman. This is one of his last recordings for this show, or one of his last recordings in
Hmm.
general. Angela Bassett, Danai Gurira. So it was nice to see or hear uh, the all these people reprising their roles in this alternate universe. I I think it was very interesting to see whether or not how things would play out. I think it was clever of them to connect Tony with Killmonger because it's not necessarily a thing that comes to mind immediately until you realize at the beginning of Iron Man Tony was in Afghanistan, and in Black Panther they mention that Killmonger was in Afghanistan as well. So it's not
Hmm.
outside the realm of possibility that they would have been there at the same time. So I appreciated them thinking a little bit outside the box and just kind of using the toys that they had at their disposal to kind of spin out a scenario. Uh, I can kind of see where you're saying that you didn't like some of the decisions that were made, but we can delve into that a little bit more when we actually get into the spoilers. I
Hmm.
I think that where it might have been disappointing for some people. For me, it seems like it was kind of inevitable, given Eric Stevens or Eric Killmonger Stevens' background, where things were
Hmm.
where things were going to end up. But again, we can talk about that a little bit more when we actually get into spoiler talk, because I don't want to
Hmm.
spoil why I think the decisions made sense logically as it follows, because
Hmm.
I think things follow logically from the beginning of Black Panther, where things end up at the end. But anyways, like I said, for what we need to do is talk about this in spoiler talk. So I think we both say go through the episode. So after this, we're gonna spoil the episode. So, all right, spoiler alert. All right, so where do you want to start? You said that you had a couple issues with some of the decisions in the
I just think that because you've seen him in the previews as being part of that Guardians of the Multiverse part of thing, and it seems as though because of that, I just felt that he was going to have some sort of redeeming quality or turn into, a redeemable character from what was portrayed in Black Panther, and it didn't seem that way. It just they kind of just threw it off, and I was just a little shell shocked because of that. I'm like, well, I expect him to be a hero, because of that Guardians of the Multiverse at the very end, some of the previews and stuff. But he was not. He's just cold-blooded killer who killed Tony Stark, who killed War Machine, basically, and killed a bunch of other people, and also Black Panther, T'Challa too. So it's like you killed 3 people, and basically. 3 very important characters, and then the Watcher is expected to say, "Oh, it's okay, we can brush that off in this universe," and basically you're going to be part of the Guardians of the Multiverse. So, I mean, maybe they just wanted to throw you off because of that, but I just found that very, in some ways, very irredeemable, even worse than say Doctor Strange, because at least Doctor Strange, I mean, in his way. He was trying to affect the universe in his own way, but I don't think he killed anybody, right? But for Killmonger, it's like he actually killed people for it, and he actually found some satisfaction about that. In this kind of, in the same way that he found satisfaction in making sure that people around him or surrounding him pays for the oppression that he has suffered, and that's also involved with the whole kind of human race type of thing, like the whole type of thing that he was experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying. If you want a pure straight ahead hero, then he shouldn't be part of the Guardians of the universe. But really, in the if we're talking about the gray areas of the real world, sometimes you need people who aren't necessarily straight ahead heroes. I don't agree at all that what he did is anywhere near as bad as what Doctor Strange did. Doctor Strange Supreme is actually what his name is going to be, or what his name is in the show. Because yes, he killed some people, but his name was Killmonger. I don't think that all the people that he killed before he started killing Tony are any less significant than Tony just because we know Tony's name. Tony knew he was a killer before he made him chief of security and then COO. So he was a killer before that, and he was also a soldier. Lots of soldiers are killers. I'm going to assume Rhodey at a certain point was a killer as well. So but Doctor Strange destroyed the entire universe. People, so I don't, and he gets to be part of the Guardians of the Universe as well in the clips that we've seen of the trailers. He's part of that group also, and he might be remorseful, but he did destroy. He did kill everyone. So if the Watcher is bending his morality or whatever because of whatever the event is to let him on the team, I think Killmonger isn't beyond the pale, because the kill count is nowhere near as high as Doctor Strange. That also being said, that being said, I think that the expectation of him being like a total hero, given where we pick up on this story, is somewhat unrealistic, and this is why I was saying that I think that where we ended up at the end made sense. Tony didn't interact with him when he was a child and he lost his father. He interacted with him after he graduated from Annapolis, MIT with a doctorate degree, and he was already in Afghanistan. His worldview was set. He did all that stuff. He trained himself at the highest level. He apparently graduated from MIT with a doctorate in a year, based upon this what you call it, this timeline. So he was always going to be who was going to be. Where he obviously orchestrated that meeting with Tony to use Tony, which I appreciated them showing. I appreciated this episode because it showed his genius in a different way than it showed in Black Panther. No, he definitely seems smart in Black Panther, but the character in the comics rivals T'Challa's genius, even though he didn't have all the advantages that T'Challa had. So I appreciated them showing that he was very calculated. And even Ulysses Klaue even mentions this in the middle of the episode when he kills after he kills Rhodey and after he kills T'Challa. He says that I don't want to play chess with you, which is funny because he still thought that he was going to be able to outmaneuver him later on and not get killed, but it's so Ulysses
he still ended up getting killed.
Yeah, so
he did.
So Ulysses is just stupid in this episode, in this universe as he is in the other one, and gullible and racist. So you don't feel bad about him getting shot in the head, just like you don't feel bad about him getting shot in the main MCU. But yeah, I
right.
For a minute, it would have been nice to see where Erik went, but I think it was more interesting to see how he was playing everyone all the way up to the end. And I would have actually the only issue that I have with this episode is that it tried to end on a positive note, whereas there was no reason to add that. So like if they were going to do that, they needed to add another 15 minutes to the episode. So if they're going to add this tag at the end where Pepper and Shuri, they needed to add a little more time to the episode. And that's sort of a complaint that people have about the show in general, that the episodes are good but a little bit short. So it felt like it was the first half of the movie, and then and then it went to credits after the first half of the movie. If they had not tacked that thing on at the end, it would have been a fine episode. It was like he maneuvered around everyone. He became Black Panther. He obviously is going to eventually kill T'Chaka at some point. He'll probably make it an accident because he was obviously playing Tony when he said, my father was killed by gang violence, because I doubt that in this universe he didn't find his father with panther claws in his chest, just like he did in the Black Panther in the MCU universe. So he knows that T'Chaka killed his father, so he eventually will kill him. But ending the episode there would have been more satisfying to me, and probably would have raised this up with where I don't think it would have been better than the Doctor Strange episode, because that was super bleak, but this would have been bleak. The bad guy wins, bleak. I don't think we've had a bad guy wins episode yet. Like at the end, the bad guy wins, and we have a multiverse. There's infinite possibilities. In some universes, the bad guy is going to win, right? So it would have been nice if they actually ended it like that, without the hope, sort of thing.
I think that there's three things that I wanted to point out. Is that the first is that what you just said. I think that the zombie episode, I would say that's where the bad guy, quote unquote, kind of won. Because they're sort of in some ways.
If you're saying the virus is the bad guy, sure, maybe. But that's more of an existential threat. But then like I don't know that unless Thanos gets that final stone and zombie Thanos does something terrible, then the bad guy wins, I guess. But I don't know. it, eventually the bad guy might win there. So like even if they get through the defenses and they get to Wakanda and
Mm-hmm.
they're able to broadcast this thing, then they're back at square one now with no Avengers. So like they turn everyone back from a
Right.
zombie, and Thanos is not a zombie anymore, but neither is his army, and now there are no Avengers to stop him at all. So I guess that
Mm-hmm.
eventually could be like bad, but it wasn't necessarily clear. It was just like it was like, okay, this could be bad, and like I said,
Mm-hmm.
the I don't know that the main focus of that episode was him. The main focus of that episode was the
Right.
zombie. So I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's possible. I think this would have been a definitive. This episode was about the bad guy, and the bad guy won at the end, sort of thing,
Yeah.
as opposed to Doctor Strange, where he wasn't necessarily a bad guy. He was just a very misguided guy. Even though, like I said, the
Right.
damage was a lot larger. Yeah.
Right. And I think the second point I want to make was about the ending. I think that because I think people were still kind of shell shocked by all the deaths, and especially to like Tony, to like all like Rhodey, and also to T'Challa. I think that they needed some sort of like uplifting thing because it was very depressing. It's like he killed all those prominent people, and he basically played everybody like a fiddle, and wound up on top. So it's like this dastardly kind of villain, needs somehow to be outplayed somehow. And so I think that that's why they tagged it on it again. Because I understand what you're saying is that they, it would have been great. It would have been a kind of great story if they just kind of left it that way. But I just think that it would be, from the context of how the story played out, it was probably way too bleak, and it didn't give them enough hope to like kind of say, hey, someone can be outsmarted too. And we have Shuri here, who is just probably as smart or maybe smarter than Killmonger, who's probably going to be plotting with Pepper to try to do something. And then I think to your other point about the episodes being longer, I think that it's speculated that some of it's going to be in season two. I don't know if they're going to try to extend certain stories to season two, because we only have, I think, two episodes left. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very difficult for them to say, for example, the Peter Quill Ego the Living Planet like cliffhanger there,
Right.
or the zombie cliffhanger, or even this cliffhanger right here, for them to kind of wrap that all up. So I assume that they're probably going to address that in season two. I am not sure, but it would be very hard for them to address those outstanding issues for the last two episodes, plus, in order for them to kind of get, and then also like bring the Guardians of the Multiverse together and bring Ultron in there. So I just don't think that. I think that they might want to just leave that story, or if they just want to leave it as a cliffhanger and just say like, hey, just like Twilight Zone type of thing. Maybe that's their intention.
Yeah, I don't know. So like this is episode 7 now. They're 8, 9. Yeah. So there's a. I don't think next episode. I think next episode is probably Party Thor episode.
Yep.
So
Yep.
the Party Thor episode, and then they're gonna do a Guardians of the Multiverse sort of thing, where it looks like
Hmm.
Ultron. I mean, it looks like that. We'll see. I mean, people
Right.
people are speculating this based upon a Hyundai commercial, and I looked at all the
Right.
Hyundai commercials that they've done for the other day. There's a YouTube clip with all the Hyundai commercials, for WandaVision, for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, for Loki, and for this show. None of those commercials have anything to do with what's going on in the show. They just got someone. They just got someone from the cast. Well, they got Elizabeth Olsen, they got Anthony Mackie, and they got Tom Hiddleston to be in those commercials. But out of context, they're just in a Hyundai. So the fact that a bunch of Ultron show up may or may not happen. I think it's just like speculation that people are making because of that Hyundai commercial. I don't know. It might be the zombies, because we were talking about that. We were talking about that last week as well. We don't know what the final thing is going to be. Uh,
Yeah, but I think that I saw the preview for like one of the previews for their next up for like the last like the I think I saw like a mid season
they
break or
they
something like
showed they
that. They
showed a
did that.
they showed a mid season. They released a mid season trailer this week. I think a couple days ago. Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but I didn't see anything in there with Ultron bots. Did you?
With Ultron. Um,
I haven't gone through it frame by frame, so it might be in there. But yeah,
yeah.
I think the intention is probably to revisit some of these universes, but not all of them. I mean, some of them they're not going to be able to revisit just because of realities in the world. Like they're not going to be able to
Correct.
revisit Star Lord T'Challa's universe and how they left that because Chadwick Boseman isn't with us anymore. But I don't know. I think they would have. They intended not to necessarily pick up all the threads. Uh, they who knows how Peggy Carter's universe is going to continue. We just know that she's going to be pulled into this conflict at the end, but it doesn't mean that we're going to continue to follow her universe or T'Challa's universe, even though they're going to be pulled into this thing at the end. So I don't know.
Yeah. On that note, do you think that they will probably, because they've done it with Tony Stark, they've done it with Black Widow in the voice casting. Do you wonder if they're going to probably do that with T'Challa if they wanted to explore something like that, or they just kind of like flat out not going to recast, even if it's a voice?
Yeah, I doubt they're going to recast
Okay.
just out of respect and just because like Kevin Feige said that he wasn't going to recast and he was firm on that. I mean, they could always go back on it, but I don't know this the
Hmm.
recast T'Challa controversy and or debate over the last year has been exhausting and stupid to me.
Hmm.
I like the character. I mean, if they could find a way to honor Chadwick Boseman without like replacing Chadwick Boseman, even though they're going to replace Chadwick Boseman. I mean the character, well, the character designs vary from person to person. Some of them look very much like the actor, and some of them don't look like the actor. And I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Is like that, like they were able to the team, the animation team, were given corporate instructions on whose likeness they could copy exactly and whose likeness they needed to scramble a little bit. Even Tony's likeness is a little bit off from what Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
looks like. Although Chadwick Boseman's is probably one of the closest. So I guess
Okay.
they could continue to honor Chadwick even though it's a different voice actor. It's his face, but but I don't know if they want to continue working with the character. I mean, they're not going to kill off T'Challa in the comic books.
Hmm.
They would have to change his face, I think. And
Hmm.
I don't know if they're going to go that far. I don't think they're going to. I
Hmm.
think in the MCU multiverse, I don't know that they're going to. I don't know if they're going to do it. Like I said, it would be nice to have. It'd be nice to have more stories with T'Challa in the multiverse. I don't know that I want him to be recast in the main MCU. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it'd be nice to have more, adventures with T'Challa to see where it would have gone, or things that could have happened. But who knows?
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, what is your thought about that? Do you think they should?
I think that for live action, it's still too fresh. I think that it's not going. I think that they made the right decision for that, to kind of honor his legacy and honor what he has done for the character, as well as his all his acting credits as
Mm-hmm.
well. And I think that for voice, I would say that they could have an out and recast someone, a lesser known individual that does voice acting, just like what they did with Iron Man, just like what they did with Black Widow. And I don't think that fans will be up in arms to it because they kind of know that, okay, Chadwick Boseman has already passed away, and we know that Tony Stark is, Robert Downey Jr. is not doing Tony Stark. We know that Scarlett Johansson is not doing Black Widow. So I think that fans would be okay with that because of that fact. So if they were going to do that, I personally would not have a problem with it, but I can definitely understand that they want to keep respecting the legacy of Chadwick Boseman, that they're not going to do any of that, even if it's voice acting.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it one way or the other. I mean, if you're okay, you're saying you're okay with it, you would be okay with it, and them keeping Chadwick's face, or would that be a stipulation of you being okay with it, that they keep Chadwick's face?
Yeah, that I'm not quite sure in terms of the animation how they might alter it or not. But it's very funny because in this What If episode, it was not Terrence Howard's face. It was definitely Don Cheadle's face as Rhodey, because there was some type of things from Iron Man 2. That's why it kind of reminded me of Iron Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly, at the very beginning, it was more like Iron Man.
Right.
So they definitely did not use Terrence Howard's face there.
They did the same thing that they did with the What If the Avengers Never Assembled episode. They recast Bruce Banner with Ruffalo. So yeah, they're these other universes. Those early Marvel mistakes never happened. So yeah.
So I mean, anything could happen in that regard. I mean, you could get away with some sort of alteration, and then have someone have like some minor tweaks here and there, like they did with Tony. But I mean, either way, I'm okay with it. I'm not up in arms either way. But I think for live action, I think it would just be too raw for people to kind of accept that, and that's why I think that they made the right decision about that.
I think this is their out, because Multiverse of Madness is coming up, and I don't know what that movie is going to be, but there's been speculation for the past year that they're going to have alternate versions of like Tony Stark, like different actors playing Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. Like Tom Cruise and things like that. So if they do that in live action, it will be easier to explain why there's a different T'Challa in the animation. I don't think that they're going to ever, even if they in a multiverse situation, they're going to replace T'Challa anytime soon. They might do that. Mm-hmm. They might use that for an explanation like in 5-10 years to do it in live action. But it'll be easier for them to explain it in the animated show if they do it in live action next year in the Multiverse of Madness
understood
movie. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something that could come up. I would surmise, because then they can kind of start kind of new in terms of that.
Right. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts before we move on to Titans?
Yeah, I think overall, I think that I've enjoyed What If so far. I think, like I said at the very, very top, that this is not one of my favorites because of the choices that they made, and also, but at the same time, it's still very enjoyable overall. I think that they really have. I think the storytelling has been very tight overall. I think that this has been very consistent throughout in terms of their presentation and stuff. So I really enjoy kind of like the flow of the stories. It's very tight. It's very kind of engaging. Just like Loki was very engaging. Mm-hmm. Falcon and Winter Soldier was very engaging. WandaVision was very engaging. So it keeps you at the edge of your seat in terms of, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? So I really enjoy it in that sense, and look forward to the final 2 episodes.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I probably liked it more than you did because of the reasons that I just stated before.
Right.
Yeah, I am looking forward to how they're gonna do a crossover. I mean, they didn't have to make a decision to do a crossover. They could have just kept it an anthology series and not done a crossover, but they obviously intend to cross it over, because like even outside of the Hyundai commercial, we saw that we saw some of the heroes or the main characters arrayed all together. So they definitely intend to do a crossover at some point. And I guess we'll see in a couple weeks what the issue that is going to get the Watcher to intervene is, because in every episode, in the last couple episodes, he gets further and further. He's not like an outline anymore. You can see his face, and you can see him in the last episode with this episode with Killmonger. You see him very, very annoyed, very upset. It's like
I think he is. I think just like how I am, very annoyed. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? You know, yeah.
He didn't talk to Killmonger or anything, but he was
right.
he was in the background, and he was like, I don't like what's going on here at all. So
exactly.
He's like, I never. So his I never intervene thing is gonna probably be thrown out the window. Just
most likely.
Just like it's thrown out the window in the comics as well. He intervenes all the time in the comics, even though he's supposed to be the Watcher. He intervenes He intervenes from time to time. So yeah.
I mean, it's kind of written in canon as well, because isn't Stan Lee's character kind of like a Watcher in some ways? Like from where he made that appearance? It was in Guardians 2. He made that appearance with the Watchers. I think it was Guardians 2. So isn't he kind of like a Watcher-esque type of character? I don't know the full context of his cameos in terms of the MCU, but yeah. Yeah, isn't he one of them? And he kind of intervenes in some ways as well.
He wasn't a Watcher. He was a agent for the Watchers, I think is what they were trying to show.
Oh, okay.
He was, but he wasn't like a full-fledged Watcher. I think what they were indicating. I think in the Guardians of Galaxy is what you're talking about. But I don't think he was a Watcher then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we should move on to Titans. So, as before, we can do our I guess a spoiler-free thoughts about the episode called Home. So, what did you think about Home?
I think overall it was pretty solid. I don't think it was as good as it was last week. I think it was just solid overall. And there was definitely a lot of interesting story how they kind of continued the story in many ways. I didn't really have a problem with it. And also that the characters that we've seen in the last couple of episodes again take more of a they're not sidelined as it was in, like, say, in previous earlier episodes. I think they did have a little bit more to do than they had. I think for all of them they had a little bit more to do, which was great to me. And yeah, I just felt as though and then we see a character that we saw a few episodes ago come back into the forefront in some ways. So I think overall pretty solid. And yeah, just like What If, let's see what happens in the next few episodes, and hopefully the writing or it doesn't dip like it did earlier with episode 4, the infamous episode 4 where they break out Blackfire. So, hopefully it's not like that, but hopefully it's more kind of consistent throughout.
Yeah, I thought it was a good episode as well, or at least a fine episode. It wasn't in my top for the season, but it wasn't terrible either, which I guess is the bar now
right.
for this show. It wasn't a bad episode. I think that if I had a criticism of it, what made it fine and not great is that it wasn't as focused. It seemed like a lot of things were going on. They had a separate plot with Beast Boy investigating stuff, and that kind of follows from last week. But that the character that you mentioned showed up again, so that was another thing that was going on. Then we were following we were following Crane, and then we were following Jason, then we were following the other people in the team as well, because there was a separate plot with Koriand'r, separate from what was going on with Dick and the main Red Hood thing, but we also got more of the main Red Hood thing as well. So there was just a lot going on. It seems like the episode didn't have a focus, but I can't say it was bad.
No.
It was just fine. It obviously seemed like a bridge episode to the next episode, but they did a better job of doing a bridge episode than they did earlier in the season as well. Because the episode 4 was a bridge episode too, but they had the characters do a lot of stupid things. So yeah.
Yeah, I think overall, there's a couple of things that I would nitpick, but that will get into spoiler territory, so I'm not going to kind of say it out loud right now because it would get into too much spoiler talk.
All right. Well, with that, I think we both think the episode is either good or fine, but I think we should get into a spoiler talk. So. See, 1 second. We get the software here is not cooperating with me, so I have to. All right, so we can get into spoiler talk. So spoilers ahead. What was the thing that you wanted to nitpick, or you had an issue with?
Tainting Gotham's water supply. So that's from Batman Begins. Like, what's going on there? Like, okay, all right, fine. You can't, like, that's a nitpick for me because I think that I'll give it a chance, but we've seen this movie before. So why are you going back to that? I mean, it was really interesting in Batman Begins, but why would you go back to that type of thing? And I think that also that's the first thing. And the second thing is, why did he kill his mom? And what was his mom doing there? Like, what was the relevance of bringing Jonathan Crane's mom into this? Like, the character that I would think that they would try to kill off would be Leslie, right? Because Leslie was in the beginning part of the season. That would be the more logical person to kill off.
It seemed like
it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, did it seem to you like his mom was a psychiatrist as well, or
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They just brought in a different psychiatrist for him to kill.
Yeah. That doesn't make no sense to me. I'm like, why is she here? It's like there's no like. Okay, he has a mommy issue, but we don't have any context like before. It's just some random thing. It would have made more sense if it was Leslie. But anyways, that's. I mean, like I said in the non-spoiler part, it doesn't really detract from the episode itself. It's still fine. It's still okay. But those two things, I'm like, it, you're going back into that. It doesn't make any sense part. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to give this a pass because I still enjoy the rest of this stuff. But yeah, that just kind of like, okay, stop it there.
Yeah.
Some instances.
I think they did the same thing with Lady Vic. They named the entire episode after her for some reason. That, like I said, that episode wasn't as bad as 4, but it was one of the bad episodes because of lots of different reasons. Where's Lady Vic? Like he's they have him running around as if he has like a crisis of confidence, and that's why he shows up. He goes to his mommy, but like Jason wasn't his only henchman. They had a whole episode called Lady Vic. Why isn't he having giving her orders, or all the other people that he was employing? I
don't know.
It made no sense. They had this woman show up, and they showed that he was reeling, and then they killed her off. And apparently, I don't know, Lady Vic go on to another assignment or something like. Cause she's a mercenary or assassin, but we never know. They named an entire episode about her. They had this ridiculous backstory that made no sense about Dick and Barbara being thieves, and
that was kind of bad.
And it involved Lady Vic, and they also showed that Lady Vic at the end of that episode did something to Barbara, and we don't know. None of that. None of that has come up again. I think there's something going on with the water, but it's very unclear what that's about. Like the water that broke on her desk, that above her. But I don't understand what that is, and it's not clear. There's not enough clues for the audience to understand if that's supposed to mean something. What that means, except for the fact that if she had any common sense, the leak above her completely computerized desk. She should have moved her desk a little bit further into the hall. I mean, she's she's the boss. She can do whatever she wants to. It's not gonna. I mean, she should have moved her desk further ahead, further, so it didn't. I mean, even if she thought maintenance fixed it, if they didn't fix it, it's not like a regular desk. It has all the stuff that she needs to do her job on it. But whatever.
Yeah, they kind of left that. They kind of left that kind of wide open in some ways. But if people have watched Batman Begins, you know what happened. They microwave the water, and then all the gas comes up. Now, if they go for that, I will be not very happy, because that's just copying Batman Begins. And look, it's like, okay. In some ways, I know that last week I think it was 2 weeks ago, I kind of criticized, their choices of Barbara and Dick being thieves, but they did, you were explaining like they didn't really execute it very well. And I just had a problem with that. But then you're going from that extreme to the extreme of, I'm just going to rip off like one of the movies. It's fine. And why can't, like, there's got to be some better kind of creative juices that are flowing here besides just like one extreme or the other extreme, in terms of their presentation of the story.
Yeah, I think I bumped up against that less than you did. Like the fact that the poisoning the water supply thing, you're right. It shows up exactly the same way in Batman Begins, and is exactly the same villain as well. It's Dr. Crane doing it. I mean, he's doing it on at the behest of Ra's al Ghul, but it's Dr. Crane poisoning the water thing. That didn't really bother me because honestly, it's a plot that Christopher Nolan did not come up with. It shows up a lot in Batman things, and the animated show and the comic books. Everyone's trying to poison the water supply. So I never thought that they're stealing Christopher Nolan's thing. That just like Christopher Nolan stole something that people use a lot in Batman things. So I just figured it's just another thing it's just another person using that thing. So that's why it didn't bother me as much. Like I said, her not moving her desk bothered me more than what they actually did to the water, because it just makes her seem stupid. I don't like when they write people who are supposed to be the heroes. I don't mind writing heroes in a way that they make mistakes, but if they make stupid mistakes, it seems like, how are they still alive? They're alive by luck, because they're not very smart because they make stupid mistakes. So I don't know. They like I said, this episode wasn't. I mean, we're complaining about two different things, two specific things, but it wasn't terrible. That was just annoying to me. I think speaking about some of the things that I liked, I definitely liked that they let the Connor and Blackfire thing percolate for a couple episodes, so it makes sense where they are now, and they when they ended up in bed at the end, so it wasn't like out of the blue. As soon as she came in the room with him, she was attracted to him. He thought he was supposed to be assigned to her. So her her being in bed with him is fine. Although I'm not sure why I'm not sure what their compunction is about people knowing that they're together. I mean, I don't know why they're deciding not to be together. Who cares whether Corey knows? I don't think Corey cares that they're sleeping together. So I don't know
Yeah,
why they
yeah.
had the whole conversation about, oh, because they know we have to stop. I mean, it seems a little bit out of character for Blackfire to even care what people think. Um,
Yeah, I think that it was more maybe because the way that I kind of interpret that is maybe because she saw Connor as like the superhero type of thing, and then that's why he kind of said, I'm kind of half bad as well. I'm not like I'm half bad, so and she's like I'm all bad, and bad is just a relative term to them anyway,
mhm.
and they kind of explain her motivations as to why she killed her parents and things like that. So I think that this is one of the good things about the episode is that I was very happy that they kind of set that up, and then it made sense. It made sense that they were going to be, you know, you know, they were going to be in bed together. It made complete sense to me, and I think that, but they kind of planted that seed a couple of episodes ago, and now it completely makes sense. And as an audience member, you cheer for that. You're like, way to go, because they are two kind of in some ways broken people, but at the same time, they have a sort of innocence to them. They have a sort of kind of redeeming quality to them, and even for Blackfire, I mean, Blackfire is just becoming one of my favorite characters because of she has a sense of edginess, but she also has this kind of vulnerability as well. And I think that with Connor is the same thing, is that there's a sense of vulnerability to him as well. And I think that that's why Koriand'r was like, I don't care. It's like, okay, you're kind of I kind of saw the signals and go for it. That's fine with me. And you guys are adults, so why do I care?
Yeah, I so I definitely like their pairing as well. The actress playing Blackfire is quite beautiful. I think we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. John said that she couldn't act, but I don't think that or she wasn't a great actress. But I think that they give her more to do in this episode, and you get to
Hmm.
see the nuance
Yes.
of her performance. So I appreciate
Yes.
her performance, and I appreciate I appreciate her performance, and you can actually see that she is a pretty good actor in this episode. Uh,
Hmm.
I just feel like I said where they left things seemed a little bit ambiguous since they spent several episodes trying to get them together, and it seemed natural that they would get together. That they might be making the decision not to be together just because Starfire knows. And it
Hmm.
seems like it's going to hit him a lot harder than it's going to hit her because apparently this was his first time with anyone. So
Right.
we get to see what the repercussions of that is, and how much she's going to be pining for her after this. If they decided to break up, if they decide not to be together, because she doesn't want to
Hmm.
jeopardize her relationship with her sister, or like I said, it's not clear to me why she doesn't want to be with him.
Yeah.
Why she doesn't want to be with him just because Starfire knows. It's not clear. It's not clear at all.
Right.
Maybe they'll get into that a little bit
Yeah.
later.
Maybe they'll get into that, but also I just think that they had to make it awkward for them probably, and then like have them kind of be uneasy about each other. They don't really know, but at the end of the day, they're probably going to be together. I would surmise. So, we'll see how it all plays out with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had, like I said, Gar in his plot with Molly. I don't know that went. No, that she was useful later on in the episode, right? Because I think Gar had been talking to Molly, and then eventually Jason reached
Hmm.
out. Jason reached out to Molly, and I think Molly
Right.
told him that she got a visit from Gar, so she sent a message through. Jason sent a message through Molly to Gar to meet up. So I don't know. I am dubious about the road to redeeming Jason. I don't think
Okay.
you can redeem him, and they try to show him as remorseful and getting sex workers to act like Hank and Dawn and apologizing to the sex workers. I mean, sure, whatever. I think I agree with him. It doesn't matter that he was on drugs. Having the actor say, "Well, were you on drugs?" Doesn't convince me at all. I understand what the writers are trying to do. They're trying to say, "Oh, he was under the influence," but he made a decision to take drugs. He's literally a crime fighter, and he decided to get hooked on something, and he made a lot of stupid decisions before Crane started to mess with his brain chemistry with the drugs that he took, and a lot of stupid decisions that led to his friend getting killed. Now he could say that that was Crane's master plan or whatever, but I don't know. I think they're going to have to do a lot of work to redeem Jason by the end of the season, and I'm glad that they brought in Tim Drake because I don't see him coming back as Robin, even though they also shot Tim Drake in the middle of this episode for some reason.
Yeah, that made no sense. That made no sense.
They shot Tim Drake in the middle of this episode. It made no sense. It made no sense for a couple reasons what happened there. Tim got shot, and I understand the way that they set it up. The way they set it up is that they were trying to forgive Jason, or trying to see whether or not he was forgivable, rather. But when they showed up, Tim was shot, so they're all going to think that he was the one who did it, and Tim is conveniently passed out, so he can't tell everyone that it was Crane that shot him. So that's how they're setting it up. That okay, Jason is really is a villain, but he's just misunderstood. That's why they shot Tim, basically to serve the Jason redemption arc. But I don't know. The way they staged that made no sense whatsoever, because they literally have Superboy there. They said that he's bleeding out. Instead of having Superboy take him to the hospital immediately in a couple seconds, they have someone wait for the ambulance to show up, and he could die. I mean, I understand getting Jason is really important, but there's a kid with a hole in him. That made their decisions make no sense whatsoever there, because they're trying really hard to write that Jason redemption thing. So
yeah. So if they're trying very hard to do that, and then the thing is that his former teammates from Titans, his former Titan teammates, are like looking at him and say, "Wait a second, you just shot this kid." Like, that's not a right. Like, I mean, we know that he didn't do it, but it just convolutes the story a lot more. So what gives? But I think that for me, I think that the journey of Jason trying to be redeemed, I think that it got off to a okay start. I mean, I didn't mind it too much. I think that he was being remorseful, but again, it's just like they're tripping over themselves. It's like, why introduce the fact that he's in front of Tim? And then, even though I think the setup of him trying to meet with Dick was basically, Dick was passed out. He was hit by a truck, while he was cycling, and basically,
and Jason called the police.
Yeah, and basically, right. So they already set it up pretty nice, actually. And then, you kind of got he went through his journey with the sex workers, and then he just kind of tried to meet with Dick on his own, in the tunnels and stuff. I think they were doing a good job. And then all of a sudden, you're just going to have him stand in front of Tim, and then and then have your teammates think that you shot the guy and shot the kid. I mean, come on, that. I mean. I don't know. I didn't get that part. It didn't make any sense to me. And then I think that Tim's journey throughout this episode was very interesting in itself. Just kind of starting off and doing the investigative detective work. That was very fascinating. I found it very fascinating. But then I was like, why are you trying to shoot him? And then like basically he's on the precipice of being dead. Like, why are you doing that for? Like, he was an interesting character. You're trying to kill him off. What are you doing? So I just, again, that kind of choice there, it just, I think they were building that up pretty well with Jason and with Tim, and then it just kind of like, oh, we just going to throw this in there, and then we're like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they like, this is why I say the episode was fine. It was kind of all over the place. It was all over the place. I mean, it wasn't bad. Like I said, it wasn't bad.
Right.
It's just that most of it was good, and then there are inexplicable weird things like why is Blackfire and Connor breaking out? Why did they shoot him? I don't know that the fact that I'm not on board with Jason's redemption arc is a bad thing. I understand what they're trying to do, and I think and I think that what they've executed was fine. I think they should have set up something earlier on in the season. I think I mentioned this when he came out of the Lazarus pit. It would have explained his behavior better if they took they take things from the comics and they disregard other things. One of the things that they should have taken from the Lazarus pit is that it makes you irrational. It makes you a little bit crazy. So him with the effects of the Lazarus pit, in addition to the drugs, would have made me accept his redemption arc a little bit better. But they just had him come out of the Lazarus pit fine and just confused instead of crazy, which is what usually happens when people come out of the Lazarus pit. So yeah, I like I said, the episode is uneven, but it's not as bad as 4 or 6. So yeah, let's see what else happens here in this episode. We get,
I think, yeah. One more thing that I want to add is about Starfire's like a relapse in some ways.
Yeah.
Like she had to go into the meditation chamber, and then she woke up like basically going around circles and stuff like that. They never picked that back up, and I'm like, okay, so then what is going on? I thought that was over already. Like that conclusion right there of her having those recurring dreams and stuff like that. Like I thought the audience thought that was Blackfire, and then that was already resolved. No matter how bad it was resolved, we thought, but it's recurring again. So what's going on here? So, and then they never kind of explained that toward the end of the episode. So I don't know. Is it just a relapse, or is it just like a dream? Or I don't quite understand why did they have to do that part there.
That was one of the parts of the episode that I didn't mind, and I was
okay.
Even though this writing staff hasn't garnered a lot of goodwill, I was willing to see where they were going, because I'm hoping against hope that this will redeem how they used it earlier on in the season with Blackfire. If it's not just Blackfire, if it's something else, then her having all these conniptions, if it's a bigger deal, if something else is going on just besides her sister, then that makes episode 4 not as bad as it was because it was just a pit stop. It was just a pit stop along the larger issue that she's going on, whatever dissociative issue she's having. So we saw a couple images there. We saw a couple images there. We saw a baby with Starfire's eyes, or Tamaranian eyes, or like, it was a baby or was it just a young child, but they had,
I think it was a baby.
It had Tamaranian. So we know that she wasn't born on this planet, because it wasn't a setting on Tamaran. It was a setting here on planet Earth. So it will be interesting to see where that goes. Maybe people from her planet have come to collect Blackfire, because she did kill the royal family and then leave the planet. I'm not sure who's in charge now. The entire royal family is dead or not on the planet. So I suspect that maybe it's someone from Tamaran. But if it's something else, I'm willing to see where that's going as well. But it would be it would make what was happening earlier on in the season less like random. It seems like just like a random thing that happened. It seemed like a random thing that was happening in several episodes, in like 3 episodes, and then they tied it up on episode 4, and it was like, okay, her sister was calling out to her. I thought it was going to be more interesting than that. So hopefully they have a chance for it to be more interesting than that. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would have just wanted to kind of let that go there and just leave it at that. But I can understand why what you're saying is that it could be some larger issue that is going on. It would be very interesting to see if it does kind of how it will play out and whether they pick that back up in a future episode.
Yeah. Well, any other final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think that in terms of the season so far, like you said, Nathan, it's just uneven. There are some elements that are really good, and then there's some that are like questionable, and there's some that like it doesn't make any sense. So it's just kind of all over the place with Titans. It's kind of like, yeah, and also like I said multiple episodes ago that you want to like it, you want to appreciate it, you want to see what they have to offer in terms of their characters, because they are very compelling characters overall. But it just seems as though they're just kind of like tripping over themselves, or again, it doesn't make any sense, or they're just reusing some other plots, or it's just kind of again uneven in many different ways.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this sometimes makes me think of either a CW show, and CW shows have to have 22 episodes, so there's a lot of bad writing to stretch a story arc across 22 episodes. There's a lot of filler stuff, and sometimes it makes me think of the old Netflix shows before they figured the old Netflix Marvel shows before they figured out.
Yes.
Before they figured out they should have just shorter seasons. They tried to stretch it to 10 episodes or 12 episodes when there was just nothing to actually do, so the characters were just spinning their wheels, and it was just bad or unnecessary episodes. So I think it seems like they have enough story for 8 episodes, and they were given the green light for 13, and they're writing 13 episodes, because I think there's a version of this season that we've seen so far that could have been a lot tighter than what we've seen that by cutting ridiculous stuff like, I don't know, off the top of my head, Dick and Barbara being thieves, and Lady Lady Vic being an episode called Lady Vic. That whole episode, we could have gotten rid of it. They could have figured out a different way to let Blackfire loose, or get Blackfire. So like we could have cut a couple episodes, and the whole season would have been far more focused, and we might have had still issues with things here or there, but it would have seemed less convoluted and less like uneven. I think so.
Maybe no Batman in some ways, or don't focus on the Bat family too much.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that is what we think, but we are interested to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and we will see you next week. All right, bye.
Bye.